It's Shah, and today I'm here with Lupe.
Hiya.
Hi. So, Lupe, I'll be asking you some questions today.
Mhm.
All right. You ready for
I'm
them?
ready to start, yeah.
Okay. So, question number one: how will you guarantee that all the work you have done these past 2 academic years will be carried on by your successor?
Cool. So a big part about being an officer is really understanding that our time is quite limited when we can be here for a max of 2 years. So succession planning is something that you kind of start thinking about literally within the first few months of your first year, whether you're thinking of rerunning or not, is really important. As an officer, you're not only a representative to students, but you're also a trustee of the organization. So one of the big roles of being an officer is ensuring sustainability and stability in the organization. You're a director of a multi-million pound charity, and you want to make sure that the person that's going to be following you can really continue doing the work that you have done, or even better than you can. I'm very lucky this year in particular, because I know Matt quite well. We've worked together. Matter of fact, Matt is one of our Black Student Voices researchers, which is one of the big projects that I've been working on from past year and this year. And I interviewed and hired him for the role, so I'm very confident in his abilities, his work ethic, and the way that he kind of conducts himself. I think the really important part is having a very smooth handover process, having a detailed document that outlines everything that I've been working on. And it's kind of a map or a guide as to, if you're trying to work on accessibility, these are going to be the teams that you want to reach out to, or these are the support staff members at Kent Union that you can reach out to. But also equally, these are the teams at the university that will get the most done for you, that are really receptive. And one of the good things of the handover process is the fact that I can tell him exactly what my experience has been like with certain people, with certain teams, with certain campaigns and initiatives, and kind of passing on that expertise is really, really important. But also, I'm really, really pleased to see 3 of my other officers from this team have been re-elected, so they will also be able to kind of push for the things that I've been working on, because they will have been working collectively with me across this entire year. So they already know the projects that I'm really passionate about and that I've worked really hard for, and the things that can have a really great impact on the student experience, but I might not have been able to complete it during my time. So the other officers that are staying on for a second year also have oversight of it, and they can really help and support my successor in all of the work that they continue doing. I know for a fact that there's a few projects that my successor will probably have to see through, because with just the timelines of things, I might not be able to do them. Stuff like Black Student Voices, like I said, he's a researcher on that team. He's one of the 3 students that are doing all the on-the-ground work for it. As an example of that, we want to present all the findings of the research in October in a conference with students, members of staff from the university, members from the local council at Kent, and really make sure that everyone is really well aware of what's been happening. But that's stuff that Matt will have had, obviously, first-hand experience on, but also a lot of support and a lot of training ongoing up to the delivery of that project. And the same thing will be with other projects. There is people at the organisation that have a really good understanding of what's been going on, and they can hopefully pass all of that on to whoever comes after me. But I'm very, very confident that the impact of all the stuff that I've done will be seen by students very, very soon, if they haven't seen it yet. And yeah.
That's good. We like confidence. So now the second questions for students who may not be aware. What is the Authentic Assessments project, and what do you hope it will achieve?
So this project is something that I've been working on since last year. It kind of started all because across the pandemic, we did see an increase in academic misconduct cases. Obviously, with everything being online, there's a lot more temptation for students to engage in academic misconduct, and that includes like plagiarism or copying off of previous work, or just cheating in exams. That we know that that's happened quite a lot, and it was exacerbated during the pandemic. So the first year coming off of the pandemic, which was my first year as an officer, that's something that I got quite deeply interested in. I did a lot of research on it, and when I was doing some research onto how can we reduce that opportunity and that temptation to engage in plagiarism or academic misconduct for students, one of the really interesting things that came across was this concept of authentic assessments. Authentic assessments in themselves are assessments that really help students pinpoint and develop and utilize skills that are not only relevant as a student, but also they're quite connected to the career that you want to do after you finish your studies. So they might be non-traditional or non-conventional assessments. So instead of an essay, doing something that is more closely related to what you would actually be doing in the future, and assessing students based on that. So last year we did a pilot research on authentic assessments, basically trying to understand what assessments are really engaging to students, what do they enjoy doing, but also what kind of assessments help them develop really good skills and really good knowledge in an authentic way, in an organic way, and in a way that students are actually really learning what they're here to study, and not just trying to pass an exam to just pass it, but rather that they really connect and really work towards getting all those skills that are really good for employability and their careers after. We did a survey last year across the entire university. Just under 120 students participated in it, and then all that research was presented to the divisions individually to kind of give them a bit of an oversight as to what students in their schools and in the courses are saying. And then once after that was done, we understood that 120 students out of 17,000 is a very small number, obviously, and that just wasn't representative enough. It was a great starting point and definitely a great kind of trigger to the rest of the project. But after speaking with the university and really understanding that actually the university is also looking to revamp their assessment and feedback strategy, that this was the perfect time for us to really hear from students. What do you want from your assessments? How can we make sure that you enjoy them, engage with them, and learn from them in a fair way, in a really academically rigorous way, but also something that you actually enjoy, and it's not just sitting in the library for hours and hours and hours writing an essay that you're going to forget about, in 2 months' time. So the university was very, very happy to see a project like this coming up from the students. They provided us with some funding to conduct further research. So we went out, I worked with the Unit of Learning and Teaching Enhancement at the university, and together we kind of came up with a new research plan that involves kind of a two-sides approach. So the first approach is really surveying students again, this time at a divisional level. So we got 6 different surveys, one for each of the divisions, to get more accurate and representative data for the divisions, because we understand that what really works for a student in law might not work very well for a student that does business, or someone that does history. Their experience won't be very similar to someone that does computing. So we wanted to really understand what's going on in different areas of the university. And then the second half of the research actually came from presenting the findings of the pilot research. Staff told us, this is really cool. The things that students are suggesting are great. However, we can't do this because of this and this and this. We wish we had been part of the conversation when you were asking students, because we feel like we can work collaboratively to co-create, really good recommendations for them to be included in the new assessment and feedback strategy. The second part of the research is now moving on to doing focus groups with staff, which we'll be doing in the next few months, to really understand from them, what is possible, what is viable, because sometimes a student might really want something or suggest an idea that is just simply not possible because of a variety of reasons. It might be a resource issue, it might be, because the accrediting body of a particular discipline might not agree with that type of assessment. So then we can't really do it, because then that would mean that your degree wouldn't be accredited, and no one wants that. So we need to make sure that we are taking the student voice as much as possible and really working with what students want within what is possible. And that's what we're trying to do with this current research. And it will all feed into the assessment and feedback strategy, like I said, that will be developed over the next few months as well, possibly over the summer.
Okay, thank you. So, in your report, you mentioned that you will continue highlighting issues of inconsistency in every meeting to have them addressed as early as possible. What do you mean by this?
So, students that have been at Kent for a while might know that the university went through a really big restructure. So we used to have only 3 faculties, and now the new restructure has moved into 6 divisions, which obviously is very new. A lot of services and teams within the university kind of split up, and knowledge was missed and kind of lost in the whole move and the whole transition to the new structure. And the whole purpose of the restructure was to give different disciplines more autonomy in the way that they conduct themselves. So that's where we got 6 divisions, and each of them are a lot more autonomous. The university has their central teams, but also each division has their own more individual teams, again, to give them more autonomy and control over their business and how they kind of develop and work with students. More autonomy also means that X person might want to do this, and they go ahead and do thing A, but the next person might want to do thing B. And then if you put a student from one division in the same room as another one, they might be having very different experiences. One might be really positive and the other one can be really negative. So the whole kind of narrative around creating some sort of consistency is to mitigate some of the impact that more autonomy might have. So if a division is doing something really, really good, and I hear from it because I meet regularly with the directors in each of the divisions, if one of them tells me that they're doing something really cool and I see that there's scope and space for that to be applied in a different division, it's about making sure that really good initiatives are being shared with other divisions. So we're sharing ideas, we're co-creating, and really making sure that students at Kent have a really equitable experience, regardless of what you study in, regardless of whatever division you might be in, what year you might be in, whether you're an international or a home student. We want you to to have not only equal opportunities, but also equal opportunities of outcome, which is really important. We want everyone to finish off in a place that works really well for them. So yeah, it's about making sure that people are not disadvantaged because certain divisions might be applying one thing, but others aren't. So it's about that.
Yeah, thank you. So, what tangible changes to the Kent Inclusive Practices, KIP, and Individual Learning Plans, ILP, do you hope will be put in place to improve accessibility and, provide adequate assistance to students with disabilities, maybe hidden disabilities?
Yeah, sure. So the thing about Kent Inclusive Practices is, to me, they're really important. It's basically an initiative that the university put together quite a few years ago, but it just hasn't really been received by as many people as it should have been. Really, the Kent Inclusive Practices are a bunch of practices that every single lecturer, every single module convener, seminar leader should be doing, and we know that it's not happening. And it's stuff like releasing all your materials a week before the lecture, recording every single piece of taught hours of taught content that you're given to students, making sure that slides are easily readable for students that might have visual impairments. And these are really important things that not all academics are doing, even though the university has said that they all must be doing it. The thing about Kent Inclusive Practices, and some people at the university disagree with this, but after I've spoken with members in relevant teams and student support and wellbeing, I have a different opinion on it. Individual learning plans are basically done for students that might disclose that they have some sort of disability. So it might be a physical disability, but also might be a mental health issue or any other kinds of neurodivergence or any other kinds of disabilities. These students will disclose a disability and then they will go to the Student Support Wellbeing Service, SSW, to talk about what the disabilities are, and then the team that supports them will create a bunch of reasonable adjustments that academics then need to implement. So what happens is the student goes to Student Support and Wellbeing, discloses a disability, they come up with a plan, and plans might include stuff like, I don't know, for example, a student that might have ADHD, they might be given the chance to have, instead of having an in-person exam in a hall, they might have it in a separate quiet room with other students that might also have an ILP, and that kind of provides them with, again, that equal opportunity of being able to do their exam in the best way possible and in the way that fits them. And then that plan is created and then it's sent to the divisions for them to actually implement them. So once student support and wellbeing creates the plan, that's all their involvement in it. Then it's up to the division and the schools and the academics themselves to implement them, keep it at the back of their mind, and make sure that they're taking a proactive approach to helping students that have disabilities. What is happening at the moment is SSW will create the plan and then it might not be implemented to the level that it needs to be implemented. So obviously that creates a lot of distress for a student because they've gone out of their way to go and speak with someone to find some solutions and then they don't see them applied. Some of the changes that I'm hoping will happen is that through Kent Inclusive Practices, if all of these practices were followed by every single academic in every single school in every single division, whatever course they might be delivering, a lot of the requirements from ILPs would actually go down and they would just be inherently implemented because stuff like, having accessible slides is something that everyone should be doing. And like I said, when ILPs, which are specific individual kind of created plans to fit a very specific student, are not implemented, if KIPs were actually taken more seriously and more people were aware of them, and they actually kept them at the forefront of everything that they do, we would see students with disabilities succeed a lot more and feel a lot more comfortable, more supported. And that's basically what I'm trying to achieve, is to make sure that KIPs are relaunched, refreshed, that everyone knows about it, and not only knows about it, but actually shouts about it and implements them and takes up the personal responsibility to make sure that they take place, so that some students that, maybe they don't know that ILPs exist, they would still see their requirements met just naturally because everyone would be doing it. So yeah, hopefully it's something that can create really positive change and help students feel a lot more supported, heard and seen, because that's really, really a key part of being a student, is feeling heard and seen, and like, no matter who you are, where you come from, that you, like I said, have equitable experience, but also equitable outcomes at the end of it as well.
Okay, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you doing this meeting with me. I just have one last question, if that's okay. So there was a KU Parliament meeting on the 30th of January, and you are quoted saying that academics, I'm quoting you, know what they've gotten themselves into when they took up their jobs in regards to the working conditions that they're currently undergoing. And I want to know, what did you mean by this?
I think in the context of the meeting, I think it's very simple. Like I meant exactly what it says there, the same way that I would mean that, a lawyer knows what they're getting themselves into when they start working at a law firm, or the same way that a doctor knows what they're getting themselves into when they're working at a hospital, or the same way that a barista knows what they're getting themselves into when they start working at a coffee shop. Is the thing that academics don't become academics overnight. Academics are first undergraduate students. They will probably then do a master's, and they will probably do a PhD. Then they will probably begin teaching students. So they are in the sphere of academia and universities and educational institutions for a very long time before they decide that that's a career path that they go to. That's literally all I meant. I can see, though, how that statement can be taken. But yeah, that's
I understand that. I completely accept what you're saying. But you say that it's the same as, a lawyer knows what they're going into when they go into the law career. However, if in the law career, lawyers are being, let's say, mistreated in the terms of their wages or their pensions, does that mean they just knew what they got themselves into? Does the same logic apply to academics?
I think you're putting words in my mouth that I didn't say.
Well, you did say being in academia is a choice that academics have made. They got into this industry knowing that there were issues with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I never said that they weren't allowed to complain about the issues. I never said they weren't allowed to go on strike. I never said that they weren't allowed to create changes. I just said what I said. And also, I would like to say that, when I heard this question, my first thought is I spent a considerable amount of time writing a report about all the work that I've been doing, and this is not really relevant to the report that I've written. But yeah.
Okay, I understand that. So this directly affects the academic experience of students. Will anything more be done than just getting students to log the impacts of strikes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at the Kent Union website and social media, you see all the other stuff that we're doing. The academic experience reporting tool is not a tool for strike reporting in itself. It's a tool for students to use for anything related to the academic experience. We're using it as a tool for students to record it and have their own personal records as to how they've been affected, because we know the university has taken the approach in the past few years where there has been strikes, where they provide goodwill payments to students based on how much they've been impacted. And we know that a lot of the times, staff don't have a legal requirement to disclose when they're going on strike to their employers. They have to do that afterwards, but they don't have to do it before or during the industrial action. So it was more than anything to really understand what's going on around the university. I think before you take action, you really need to understand kind of the environment that you're in and the landscape that you're in. And if you don't know anything that's going on, you're going into things blindly. So the tool itself is just for us to have an understanding of what's going on at the university. On the other hand, we do so much when it comes to strikes. We're in constant conversations with the university. I sit in weekly or bi-weekly meetings around academic mitigation because of strikes and industrial action. We're always in conversations and always providing the student voice when it comes to how the university is dealing with industrial action and its impact on students. More than that, also the academic experience reporting tool is not just a feedback mechanism, it's a feedback cycle. Every single student that submits anything to the academic experience reporting tool will get a response, whether it's how to get support, how to find out more information, who to go to, signposting, they will always get a response. So it's about that reassurance and keeping students in the conversation rather than just hearing from them and never talking to them about what they have raised with us. But there is a lot of work. Obviously, we have a strike consultation for students all the time to really understand how to represent them when it their own views and their own opinions, thoughts to be at university for, and I think it's important that we listen to them, represent them, and act accordingly.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
So this was Shah, and I just finished interviewing Lupe. Thank you so much, Lupe.
No problem.